I was like, okay, this is making me confront my own money issues, right? Of the way that I was raised in a blue collar family, blah, blah, blah. So it felt like such a true gift. It was like, here is someone doing this within my practice. And she has no fear, around setting her fees. And so it really showed me like, this is doable. Don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Maureen Fiorelli, an entrepreneur in San Francisco. Listen as we talk about how she filled her practice and what she's done to leverage her skills after filling her practice. When she talks about how she keeps her practice full now, you'll hear some really solid ideas about marketing online and creating referral partnerships. And you can implement these things right away. When you hear her talk about what she's done to add income to her practice beyond one-on-one sessions, you're going to hear that she tried a couple of different options, and you'll hear what works for her and what she's learned doesn't work for her. That's particularly important because after your private practice is full, you're going to need to explore what the right next options are for you. So listen particularly to Maureen's thinking. Welcome, Maureen. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, Annie. I'm so excited to be doing this with you.
I'm excited to talk to you about your entrepreneurial journey. And one reason I really wanted to talk to you is that I know you've had a full practice for a long time, and then you've tried some different things with what to do after your practice is full. So we're going to dive into that. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me first, how long have you been in private practice?
Sure. I started in private practice in about 2002 as an intern, and knew right away as soon as I was working in someone else's practice as their intern that I really enjoyed being, sort of in my own office, being my own boss, and that this was the direction I definitely wanted to go in.
Nice. We have a really similar timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And we were in school together, so that makes sense.
Right.
Not a total coincidence, but yeah, that's a really similar timeline of when I started my private practice internship. So is there a difference for you between how you were filling up your practice back then and how, let's say, your last 5 clients have come in?
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's a really good way to put it in terms of my story. Back then, I was getting most of my referrals through word of mouth or like Craigslist, things like that, using the limited knowledge I had about how to market myself. And then as I moved forward and knew that I really just wanted to do private practice, I got on insurance panels so that I could build it quicker. Have a steady stream of clients coming in. And that really was like my phone was ringing off the hook when I was on panels. And then just to fast forward this so it doesn't turn into too long of a piece about it. As it got full, I just thought, okay, take the plunge, just get off of the panels and go and do full fee.
Was it scary?
Oh my God, terrifying. Yeah. Yeah, it really, it feels like someone else on your program had called it training wheels, I think, at one point. I was like, oh, that is the perfect way to put it. You basically feel like you've got this, like almost like a benevolent parent or something, taking care of you. And after letting that go, it's like, okay, it's on your own and you need to just trust that these referrals are going to come in. And they did actually, my last few referrals who have come in, it's become a steady stream, was through actually a doctor's office that I, made a connection there with one of the physicians because I do eating disorder work. And so I have to do this collateral, the collateral calls for these clients to make sure, are they okay? Are they, are their vitals okay? Is their weight okay? And so these doctors got to know me and put me on a referral list for all of their medical offices. So I'm getting this steady stream of people coming in from their doctors. And so I didn't even try to do that. That just sort of mattered.
That was going to be my next question. Like, did you do anything like letting them know you're open to new referrals? Mm-hmm. No. So it was just having that relationship, right, where you were showing them your work because you were working together.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And showing up, making the calls. One of them had made a comment to me about, most therapists don't call and check on these eating disorder clients. I'm kind of surprised that you're actually doing this. And so I think that's what prompted her to put me on their list. So it kind of paid off, to be doing good work or to be doing what you thought was really, in the best interest of the client.
That's awesome. So would you say that's how the majority of your clients are coming to you right now?
Yeah, now I would say through there and Psychology Today. Psychology Today has been wonderful for me over the years as well. And goodtherapy.org. I get a lot of people from there.
Do you think, what's your theory about why that's working? Do you think it's because you're really clear with your niche or your messaging, or what do you think is working for you when it doesn't work for other people?
Yeah, probably. I think that I was very clear about how I wrote my ads for Psychology Today, and then also how I wrote my text for my website as well. I think that I really started over the years to narrow it down to okay, I like working with artists. I'm an artist myself, sharing a little bit of my own, my own background and who I am and what kinds of people would, like to come to a therapist who has this background or who's into these kinds of things. So the more I shared on my own website, the more I started to see that I'm getting more calls and I'm getting more calls from the kind of clients I really love to work with and that are such a good match for me because I started self-disclosing a little more.
So the self-disclosure was bringing in the right people.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
So talking about meditation, spirituality, things like that I'm into and that I like to talk about, brought in those clients. And then, like I said, the artist piece as well. I get a lot of creative people in my practice.
I know you work with eating disorders. Do most of the folks you work with struggle with eating disorders?
No, I mean, they used to more so in the past. And lately it's been more of this sort of broad-based, sort of people from all kinds of different demographics are coming. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So it's been really expressing yourself well on your website and on those directories, and then also building these excellent referral partnerships.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great.
Yeah. And then I think also just to state the obvious, sort of trying to do good work in your practice. I still get calls from people that are like, oh, my friend came to you, 5 years ago and, gave me your name. And I feel like it's such a good compliment. It feels like, oh, okay, I guess, something worked for that person. But yeah, I think that having word of mouth referral from past clients as well. So
excellent. So once you got full and you realized, okay, I'm full and now I'm staying full and I'm staying full, what happened next? What did you decide to do next?
Well, then I think what happened was that the artist in me kicked in and said oh my gosh, I want to be more creative. I want to, just start being creative within my business rather than filtering all that energy towards doing artwork and making artwork. I think I sort of subtly put it into my business and wanted to try a bunch of different things and see how else I could expand and also bring in some more passive income so that I could work with a smaller amount of people and do what I felt like, or I still feel like, is better work with the clients that I do, because I don't have to see as many people to be able to, get by financially. So I brought in someone to work under me. And all of this was through, honestly listening to your podcast and, doing a couple of coaching sessions with you that helped me to really learn, how do you even go about these things? How do you even start this? And so I brought on someone to work under me for a while, and she was with me for 1.5 years.
Okay. And how did that go? What was that like for you being in that role?
Oh my God, I loved it. I loved having her. I realized how isolated I was in my practice, by having someone sort of, even though I wasn't in the office with her, it was like, oh, we're doing this together. And she's, it's almost like having a partner, I mean, she was really great, and she was licensed as well. It wasn't like I brought on an intern. So I saw her as my, my equal, as my colleague, really. And so it was wonderful. I loved it.
And so what happened next?
So I actually learned through Casey Truffaut, who you had interviewed, and that was really so beneficial to get, more information about what's happening in California. And it looks like they have been cracking down on people who have contractors working within their practices. And so they're starting to want everybody to actually have only employees rather than contractors. And after looking into it and speaking to an attorney about it and figuring out, okay, this is what you need to do to have employees, it just sounded like too much paperwork for me. I just know me, and I didn't want to go that route of like, okay, now I need a bookkeeper and I need to do all this, and provide, paid time off and vacation time to employees. And it just sounded like a bit too much and something I didn't want to, a road I didn't want to go down. So
that's interesting. And I could see how if you have one person working with you, I could see, especially if that's not part of the stuff that you like doing, that it could be a question of whether it's worth it.
Right.
Whereas if you had that as a really big part of your business where you have a bunch of people working with you, it could feel more worth it because as you create those systems, you're going to be using them with several people.
Exactly. I really found myself at a crossroads where it was like, I need to decide, do I want to really take this group practice in that direction? Maybe bring on a couple more people so it's really worth it. Or do I want to just go back to being, my own solo practitioner kind of thing, and let her go. And so I ended up taking that route and letting her go, which really broke my heart because I love her. But she left with a pretty full practice. She really, we filled it pretty quickly. And that's also because she did great work. I mean, she was, I think, amazing as a therapist, I'm sure, because she's very warm and, I'm sure she was doing really good work with everybody.
And so then did you set it up where she could take her clients with her when she left?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And she's still in the same building as me. She's, subletting in the Hobart building. So yeah, it's kind of, it's nice now to be like, okay, let's go grab coffee, colleagues and not in the same group practice. But the other thing I want to say about that, I learned so much actually from her. I mean, it was about a year and a half she worked with me, and I watched her setting her fees, and I saw that like, okay, this girl has no fear and is just saying, okay, this is what I'm worth and I'm charging it. And she went out there and did it. And she, her clients paid it week after week. And I really learned that I was undersetting my fees. I mean, I feel like that's the greatest gift I got from hiring a contractor to work with me.
Wow. And did she have less experience than you did?
Yes. Yeah. And that was the other thing. I was like, okay, this is making me confront my own money issues, right? Of the way that I was raised in a blue collar family, blah, blah, blah. So it felt like such a true gift. It was like, here is someone doing this within my practice, and she has no fear, around setting her fees. And so it really showed me like, this is doable. Don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth,
Yes. It's also really interesting. You're talking about growing up in a blue collar family. It makes me think about there's this idea of making more money is about working harder and working more.
Yes.
And so it really throws you out of that binary of, you've got to either work more to make more, work less, make less, that it complicates it, that maybe it's about something different. Maybe it's about the outcomes you're providing and about your confidence and about working through money blocks as well.
Right. Exactly. Yep. You're absolutely right. I mean, when I was on insurance panels, I saw 30 clients a week, and I look back now and think, what the heck? How was I doing that? I was just so burned out. But I thought that's what it's exactly what you just described. Well, you have to work that hard to have a certain amount of income, and that's how the world works. And I feel like I've grown so much over the years and learning that that's not the case.
Yes. What do you find is actually more of an optimal number of clients or number of sessions per week for you?
So right now I am doing, I would say about 12 to 13, 14 per week in person. And then I've slowly been offering people Skype and Zoom sessions. So video sessions. And I've been doing maybe 2 to 3 of those a week. So, and it feels amazing. It just feels like I have so much to give to people when I'm in the room with them because I'm not depleted. And I wish I had done it earlier, but that's the timeline of learning how this is going to work for me.
So will you tell me a little bit more about the online therapy you're providing? What are you noticing in terms of how willing people are to move online? And then also what's different for you being online or being in the room?
Gotcha. God, that's a really good question. I mean, the convenience, obviously, of being able to schedule anytime and anywhere for people has been, there have been clients that were canceling a lot in the beginning. And I thought, oh, it's resistance, my therapist cap on. I'm like, oh, what are they not wanting to? Oh, it's an attachment issue, da, da, da. And then I see, when I finally go, okay, I'm just going to do phone sessions with this woman because that's all she keeps pushing for. And there have been clients I've been working with for years that only do phone sessions, and they show up without a shadow, without a doubt, there are no cancellations. There are no late, calls because they call me, not that I call them. And they are completely with it and they have never canceled. They've never said, oh, I'm not here next time or next week or whatever. And it's what they needed. And I think that I'm learning that meet the client exactly where they need also in terms of not just, when you're in the room, but with their scheduling and their lifestyle.
Okay. So, and were these folks, some of them who had a hard time sticking with showing up when it was in person?
Yeah.
Okay. So it really was a convenience thing.
Exactly. It was their work schedule. It was, oh my gosh, their office is so far away from me and they have to come downtown, even though they're working out at wherever and, that kind of thing. So taking that piece of it out showed me, oh my God, they really want to be here. There was no resistance. This was a convenience thing for them. It was really challenging for them to get to my office.
And do you announce on your website that you provide online or phone therapy?
I don't. And I'm thinking maybe I should, to put that more out there.
Interesting. So yeah, it's just been on a case-by-case basis so far.
Exactly. It's usually people that start in my office and then somehow we end up shifting to either phone or video because that's what, either they change their job or whatever. So it's sort of, happens sort of organically.
Great. And tell me about what else is going on in your business. You were talking about wanting to have other passive income streams. What are your plans now?
Right. Yeah. I've been renting out to other therapists, actually, therapy office spaces. So I took on a whole suite in another neighborhood of the city, in addition to my downtown office, and renting out, I furnished it all and renting out to other therapists. And that's been feeling really rewarding, not because of the passive income, which, is great in and of itself. Cause like I said, it allows me to work with less clients, and feel less burnout, but it's also really rewarding because some of them are very new therapists who are just starting out. And so it just feels great to sort of have these people that are like, oh my God, this is my first office and I'm so excited about it. I'm taking on my own space. And sometimes they have questions about how to build their practice. And I end up sort of chatting with them a little bit about that. And it just feels rewarding to see somebody who's brand new in private practice and want to help them, for me to want to help them a little bit.
Absolutely. Was it fun doing the furnishing part?
My God.
I know you have really good
taste. So much fun. So much fun. Again, the artist side of me is like, help, let me do something fun and creative. So yeah, is really a fun part of it.
How many spaces are there? How many offices?
So there's 3 offices in the suite that I took over. So we have 3 offices and a waiting area.
Do you think you want to grow it from there? Do you think you want to do this on a bigger scale?
I could see that. Yeah. I definitely could see doing that. I've thought about it, it feels like a big undertaking because that's a whole lot of rent that you're responsible for if, something should happen and somebody, doesn't want to keep renting, or I guess that's a fear-based thought. So I need to work through that because other than that, I really love renting the spaces. So, yeah.
So I was thinking that when you first said you were renting out spaces, that there's that risk inherent to this business model where you had to be the one responsible, you had to be the one to, front the rent.
Yeah.
So was that a scary process to decide to take that on?
It was, but there's also another side of me that doesn't get scared about that. And I think it's because I have been subletting my office downtown for years and years and years. And I just know that if you furnish it well and you make it really, attractive to other therapists, I've always had subletters. I've never had any question of like, oh my God, what if I can't get another subletter and I can't blah, 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 blah. There's no fear around that. So I just kind of felt like I'm not worried about that. I'll find subletters. I know people will rent it,
So you really, and you had already tested it. You had already been doing it. You just kind of scaled that. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you do differently in your office space than let's say that you've noticed your landlord's doing besides having it nicely furnished?
Something else that would make somebody want to rent there, you mean? Or
yeah, or something as a therapist that you've noticed, all right, I want to do it this way because this hasn't been working for me or this hasn't been working for other therapists. I mean, and the furnishing, I think, is a big one that you've already talked about.
Yeah. I mean, the furnishing was the biggest piece because 9 times out of 10, when somebody comes to see an office space of mine, they go, oh, I saw some therapist offices and they're just really like, the furniture looks like it's from a thrift shop and there's no judgment in that of anybody doing that. Right. I mean, it's, my gosh, it costs a lot to start an office and to furnish it. But I think that, providing a certain kind of feel and a space and making sure that it's quiet enough, making sure that it's really, really conducive to doing therapy. You know what I mean? Like, so that was on my radar when I was first looking for spaces. Like, okay, is it going to be, 1,000,000 degrees in this office? Is it going to be comfortable? Is it going to be quiet? How much street noise is there? Are there other tenants on this floor that are going to be making all kinds of crazy noise? Like really making it, conducive to doing therapy work.
Yeah. And you're looking at it from the therapist's point of view. And it also sounds like you're looking at it from the client's point of view of what does it say when you walk into a suite and you see the waiting room looks comfortable, looks nice, or looks dingy.
Right. Exactly. The lighting, every little piece of it, really, I think comes into play with, it's an atmosphere. You're creating an atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. And I know the main thing that we're paying for when we go to see a therapist is the service and is the transformation that we're going to go through. But there is something about the atmosphere that can make a big difference too. I know that when I moved into a nice office space and I invested to furnish it well, that it was a different experience for my clients.
Yeah, exactly. My clients definitely comment, on different little aspects that if you're offering tea or if you're offering, the type of artwork that you have. Again, I work with a lot of artists and creative people. So they really look around and go, oh, what's here? And let me see what this looks like. And what does it feel like in here? So it's an experience. I think it's all part of the experience.
Mm-hmm. Has there ever been a time in your practice, whether it was, related to any of the additional things that you've talked about, like hiring people or subletting or any part of your practice, has there ever been a low or scary moment in your business?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think when I first got licensed, I was just so naive and I just thought, oh, okay, I don't need my supervisor anymore. I don't need support or need, to be chatting, consulting with someone about, clients or my own countertransference, and just sort of went off on my own and was like, I can do this. I got this. And I just wish that I had, if I could go back and talk to that girl, when I first got licensed in 2006, I would have said, go and get the support and keep those people around you that are emotionally supportive to you. You don't have to do this all on your own. And think that because you're licensed now, it means you're supposed to know everything that's, that you need to know without having any support.
That's excellent. Yeah. I remember when I got licensed and I was so relieved that I didn't need to pay my supervisor anymore, who was wonderful.
Yeah.
But that, with what I was charging back then, with what I was earning back then, it was a big chunk of my income. So I was really relieved that came off of my expenses when I got licensed. But absolutely, I would handle it differently now too. I would probably keep paying her and raise my fees significantly to help me pay for that, to help me invest more, both in my business and in the clinical side. Yeah, because it can feel like the way to do it in the beginning is to cut expenses. And there might be some truth to that, but yeah, we need support, whether it's the time it takes to get support or the money it takes to get support.
Right. That was exactly my thinking, was just, okay, well, I'm barely charging anything. And, to have that expense off of the list, I think I didn't realize, my God, there's so much value there that you're really not doing it alone when you go and you get that support. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
How do you balance your business with your health and the whole rest of your life that you have going on, your art, all of it?
I definitely have learned over the years that to put in more space for myself makes me actually do better work with my clients. I definitely, right now, my schedule is set up in such a way that I've got like alternate days. So I'll work a full day and then take a day off and rest that whole next day. And then go in the day after that, something like that, where it's sort of spread out and not so all shoved in together like that. And then for me, just identifying the things that really work over the years have been, being out on long walks with my dog and being in nature and having humor in my life, being able to laugh a whole lot, because you can't do I bring a lot of humor into my sessions. But it's pretty heavy duty work sometimes. So just having those things that I know always make me feel so much better, and being really conscientious about incorporating those.
Yeah. Are there any hacks that you've learned about how to make sure you incorporate those things?
Hacks.
Well, for example, for me today, I'm going to a yoga class after this, and it would not happen if I didn't already have that commitment. So that's the kind of thing. It could be that or anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, it's more like the scheduling. It's really listening to my own body and going, okay, I know clients really want to come in at night, but I don't function well at night. I'm a morning person. I love to get up early, and that's when I really have my energy. So I haven't worked evenings in years. So those kinds of things. And then also,
that is huge. Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know how I was doing it before. But yeah, not working evenings, not working weekends. And again, it takes years, I think, to be able to figure out what works for you and then really give it to yourself and believe that I can still have a full practice, even if I'm not working on those nights or.
That's really great. And there are people listening who are not quite believing that yet. So it's really important for them to hear it and maybe even rewind and hear it again.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, what are you charging right now for one-on-one therapy?
So for one-to-one therapy, I'm charging $180, and then for couples, $195.
Mm-hmm. Great. And how do you feel about your fee and the journey to get there?
I feel good about it now. I really know that I could raise it slightly higher. I've seen a lot of clinicians that have less experience than me that are charging, over 200 and 220 and above. And so I know that I could do that. I want to do it at the pace that feels really comfortable for me. So yeah. Excellent.
What is the very best place for therapists to find you and throw compliments at you?
Sure. So they could go to mfiorelli.com, and there's also, my website is also still with my group practice name, which is ensotherapygroup.com.
Excellent. And that'll be in the show notes.
Great.
Thank you so much, Maureen. This has been such a pleasure to talk to you and to get to dive in with you a little bit.
Thank you, Annie. I've loved your podcast so much, and I've learned so much from everyone that has shared all of their knowledge on your podcast. So thank you so much for doing the work you do. You really have brought something to our community that was much needed.
Thank you, Maureen. Thanks for listening. We want to get up to 100 ratings in Apple Podcasts. Getting up to 100 ratings changes the way Apple Podcasts categorizes us and makes it much more likely that we're found by the people who really need us. If you're willing to take just a minute and give us a rating, we would so appreciate it. Also, please consider writing a review about what's been valuable or helpful to you. Here's a review from Doc Tico. This is a full dose of part consultation, part therapy, and all essential. This podcast is a composite of thoughtful and focused clinicians who share their relative expertise on what has helped them to build solid private practices. The business advice has taken me out 30,000 feet and zoomed in to help me see and clarify how to make sense of the business of therapy. It's been 2 months and I haven't stopped the binge listen. Keep it going, Annie. Okay, thank you so much, Doc Tico. All right, I will see you next week. Is it composite or composite?